Hey everyone, Jamal here with Review Me, and today we have a special guest based in Europe instead of the US this time around. I'm going to try to get this as good as I can. It's Maude Arsenault, and she is an awesome fine art, lifestyle, fashion portrait photographer. Her work is very personal. It's beautiful, and yeah, we're going to get into what she does, how she came up, and all that. But before we begin, Maude, if you could just talk about yourself in a couple sentences, and we'll get going.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry, but I'm not based in Europe. I wish I was, but I'm actually based in Montreal, Canada.
Aha, yes.
I used to live in Paris for quite a bit, and Australia, and I actually do spend a lot of time in New York. But for family reason, because I'm a mother of three kids, I live in Montreal. It's a very nice little city where life is very good, but it's close to everything. So I'm actually going to Europe for 1 month in a few weeks. But I live in Montreal. So yeah, my story, as if you wanted me to talk about how I became a photographer, is that's the
Yeah, just a couple of quick background, and then we'll get into it.
Basically, I started doing photography when I was really young, like a child, really interested in actually creating stories and creating setups and just photographing everything around me when I was a kid. And then my aunt, when I was a teenager, she was the only person in the family. I don't come from an artistic family at all. Everybody's very, creative maybe, but not artistic. And anyway, so she was the only one who had something to do with photography, and she was doing that just as a pleasure. And she offered me a camera when I was maybe 14 years old. So I was really excited because all I had at the time. I'm born in the 70s, so that was like just really kind of really little basic cameras at the time. Even I think throwable cameras. So anyway, so she gave me a Pentax K1000. I think that's right. Anyway, so I started shooting films. I started shooting pretty much every minute of the day, everything I could. I started taking some classes in the city classes, those sorts of things you do like in high school, and I created my own dark room. Obviously at the time we're talking analog, like film only. So I started shooting that stuff, and then never thought about being a photographer ever. Just kept doing a lot of photography, and I was always very interested by fashion. I was making my own clothes. I was designing my own clothes. I actually thought I was going to be a fashion designer. So, the two together, when I became a teenager, I started making my own clothes and putting the clothes on my friends, and then, I'll take a picture, and then, I'll take a better picture, and then try to create some setups. And without knowing, I was kind of doing fashion photography without even knowing it. And then, so I went to school, I went to university, and all I wanted to do is to do photography. So I kept taking classes here and there, and then just, kept getting better cameras and working part-time to buy film and then make prints and like just literally obsessed with photography and fashion. And then I was really lucky to be part of the cool people at school and to go to the cool clubs in the city and actually to see a lot of models and fashion photographers like hanging out in the cool clubs. And so once in a while I would go to a girl and say, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You must be a model. Can I take a photo of you?" And then I'd call up the girl and take some photos. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to take photos of good-looking girls, and I loved fashion. So one day, one of those girls happened to be a really cool girl with a pretty good career, and she took the photos she was kind enough to do the photos with me, and then she took the photos to her agency. And then they said, "Oh, who did that?" And she said, "Oh, this girl, I know from the club and from the bars. She asked me to take some photos." Anyway, the photos ended up there at the agency, model agency, and then I started doing some testing. And then basically things just went really fast. And from testing for a few months, started testing a lot of girls. I had no idea what I was doing, really. I was just having fun. And then I just thought, well, maybe I'll be a photographer, which was never an option before. I never even thought about that because it was just not in my upbringing, you know, was not an option. I had to be a doctor or some professional, some, you know, intellectual. So yeah, so I just thought, oh, you know, this is what I want to do with my life. And then really quickly, I never assisted. I never actually studied photography. I started just taking a camera and started going to clients, and quickly, very, very quickly, within a year, I started doing big jobs, big campaigns, and just became a photographer.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting that I've heard that same story. So I know people who've gone to school, I know people who've assisted, and I know people who've just done what you did and did the obsessive, I'm just going to learn as much as I can and obsess over photography.
Yeah.
What was it about? So I guess, how did you approach that obsession? Like,
well, the thing is, when you do something, I mean, I don't think this is the best way to become a photographer, because I mean, this was all very intuitive. I mean, I never really planned anything. So during those first years, I was just so excited to be able to take photos and get paid. I didn't really think too much about it. I didn't think, you know, what is it that I want to do, or what are my influences, or who are, you know, like, I didn't have any techniques really. I mean, I did a little bit, and I was pretty much learning as I was going, which meant a lot of mistakes, a lot of unhappy people, disappointed a lot of people, and I disappointed myself a lot, because there was a lot of pressure on me to actually jump from, you know, like not being anything to becoming a commercial, you know, working photographer for big brands and magazines. So it's actually quite stressful. But I just think that basically there was there was my way. But then I really learned quickly. I mean, when you are faced doing big jobs really quickly without knowing, like, for example, in Canada, because that was all happening in Canada, I first started shooting with, I was doing these tests with models, and then my friend had a new boyfriend who had a big clothing company. And she said, oh, my friend, she's a photographer, she can do your next campaign. So he said, oh, okay, well, maybe why not? So I'll take a look at her work, and you like my work. But at the time, I remember, like, I put together a portfolio without knowing really what was supposed to be a portfolio. Anyway, he gave me the job, and it happened to be a really big kind of big name stylist here and big name models. The girl I just shot for Italian Vogue, and was really, like, I was really impressed. But then I happened to do a really, really nice campaign. So the campaign went all over the city, billboards, magazines, all across. Suddenly people started calling me for, you know, other jobs, and things went really fast. So it was, I don't know, it was just like, it's almost like it was meant to be. And then really quickly, I started going to New York with friends and stylists to see how other people were working and to learn. And I mean, it was just all very intuitive and intense, but it was good. It was good because what I like about such a way, like, you know, in comparison of going to school or assisting, is that you really just learn to be completely yourself in the work, because you can't copy anybody's way of doing. You're just doing your own way. And there's a lot of insecurity about doing that, because you actually don't know what other people are doing or how they're doing, or even handling the business side of things, or, you know, like even the rates and prices for everything. But then, you know, you just ask questions, and then you make your own way. Same thing for the creative side of things. You don't, like, I remember a lot of assistants at first, and along my career, I used to say to me, well, you can't do this. Like, you just can't do this. And I was like, why not? I do it, and it works, and people seems to enjoy the result, and that's my work, and that's the way I make it work. So I think that's the good side of it, for sure.
And one thing probably, so I guess the other question attached to that is, do you think your story is likely to happen in today's photography environment?
I think it happens more than ever in today's environment, because, I mean, in the days, it was really hard to be kind of professional photographer because it was very technical. Photography was extremely technical. I remember shooting with, how would you call that? E6, positive film, and that was extremely precise. Like your lighting had to be like extremely precise. Colors, everything had to be really precise. If you'd be doing a job on, the film, but positive, like I can't remember how you say that in English, but basically, you had to be extremely precise. And then also, good cameras weren't easy to access. You needed the money. You needed to, I remember first thing I did when I decided to be a photographer, I sold my car, which was a crappy car, but it was like, I think $4,000 or $5,000. And I was able to buy a medium format camera because to be able to do jobs, you needed some sort of camera. So what I'm trying to say is that now anyone pretty much, and there was no Photoshop, there was no retouching, you were printing your films, and that was it, like you needed to do everything in camera. So you needed to be very good at what you were doing, which I'm not saying people are not good at what they're doing right now, but it's much easier to actually create a nice picture with the techniques that we have today from, like the Photoshops and the cameras now are such good tools that you can add filters, you can actually modify things. You don't need an incredible knowledge in photography to actually produce average work. And if you have a good eye, if you have a good idea, then pretty much it's, you've got the tools to do it. You need a few advice, you might maybe need to read a few things. My oldest daughter, which is 12 years old, she pretty much do anything. She just check out a tutorial on YouTube and she can put together a film, edit film, like change any photos, like, it's just so accessible right now. So I think my story is probably extremely normal these days. It's something that probably happens all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. And okay, so you were thrown in, you're just doing all these cool big time fashion projects and all that kind of stuff. What was that next trajectory? Did you eventually get an agent, or were you just making money and life was good, or what happened next?
Well, the big thing for me is that once I started, I was maybe, at the time when I started doing all these photos and then being picked up by agencies and then a few clients at the beginning, I was really young. I was maybe 21 years old, and I was still in university. So I kind of left university and then I took on a studio. And then within about a year or two, I had a full-time studio manager. I had full-time assistant. I was working all the time. I was working big time in Canada for all the biggest clients, magazines. So I started making quite a lot of money. And then I was shooting every day, sometimes, 4 or 5 days a week. It was insane. I was really, really lucky. I got in really quickly and did really well until maybe around 26, maybe 5 years down the road, after having this, a few studios. I changed studio for a better one, and then, doing better jobs and working all the time. I had a bit of a breakdown. I just suddenly thought, okay, well, this is it. This is my life. I'm a photographer. I do the big clients in Canada, and I'm not really happy with what I'm shooting. I'm just really shooting a lot of commercial stuff. And from the beginning, always my heart was always in doing personal work. And I was, from the longest I can remember when I started in this business, I was looking at all the European magazines and, the Italian Vogue and French Vogue. And my inspirations were all like very, very, artistic and quite edgy. And I wasn't doing that. So I thought, I'm 25, 26, I can't remember exactly. I think I was 26. I have all this, I'm making all this money. It's, I've got a really good life. I had my place, I bought my own house. Things were really good for me. And then I just had a breakup with the boyfriend at the time. And I just thought, okay, well, obviously this is just where things are going to keep going. And I don't know that this is what I want. So I had a few casting that week, and all the girls were coming back from Sydney, Australia. And my heart was very broken. So I thought, well, Sydney, Australia is very far away. So that's a good thing for, being up as far away as possible from that terrible boy. And then I also thought this is a really great editorial market. All the girls were coming back from amazing, tear sheets in their books, and I was like, wow, this is great work. This is all really cool magazines. And I remember it was fall, and I just thought, well, what better than going there, and it's just summer there, and it's great, great possibilities. So I took my portfolio, what I had, and I took my camera. I took one medium format camera with one lens, and I just took off. I went to Australia I took like a working visa, and then I went for 3 months. And then when I got there, first week I started meeting, I kind of landed in a really cool neighborhood called Darlinghurst. It was a cool little bar there. So I went there the first day and started talking to people and saying, I'm a photographer, just got here from Canada, I'm here for 3 months and looking for a place to stay. I'm looking for, model agencies and all that stuff. And then I was really lucky. I kind of met a few people who introduced me to a few other people. And then next thing I knew, I was starting to shoot. And but then I really did a lot of thinking when I was there. I was really, okay, if I'm here in this new market, I don't want to do the same thing that I did back home when I started. When I was in Canada and I started, I was just happy to work. I was just happy to explore photography, and to I was just excited to make money and doing what I was excited to do. But then I was at that next step where I just didn't want to work and do photography. I wanted to do my photography, what I really wanted to do. So when I was there, I remember spending a lot of time in the libraries, looking at films. Sometimes I was seeing 2-3 films a day. I was really trying to find my voice, like my deepest inspiration, like what I wanted to say. What is it that I want to do through photography? How do I want to express my vision of the world? And so I think slowly things started to come to my mind, and I took a long time before starting taking photos. After a few weeks, maybe a month and a half or something, I started putting a few shoots together, and then I decided to stay. So I actually stayed in Australia for two years. Got a really good agent, probably the best agent there in Australia, called the Artist Group. And then within a few months, things were really tough. Like I was really shooting a lot of personal work, like tests and creatives, and having some editorials done. But it was tough. But then one day, this big guy, big hairdresser came to Australia and was represented by the same agency. He's called Nicolas Jean-Jacques. He's a big hairdresser. Not big in terms of big, but big name. He was at the time, he was with Garen in New York, and he had shot for all the biggest names and done, I don't know, like 100 covers of Vogues, and big name in the beauty business. Anyway, so this guy came into the agency and saw my work on the floor, because at the time, again, there was no digital world. It was just starting. So they were making the books by putting all the prints on the floor. And he said, oh, who's that work from? And he said, oh, that's the best work I've seen since I've been in Australia. And then my agent looked at him, because they were all kind of losing hope for me, because things weren't picking up that fast. So he said, well, that girl's work is crazy. Like, she's got to be shooting with me for Vogue and for all the other magazines. So that's how I started working for the cool magazines over there, and the really cool project with him. And he taught me a lot about how the big guys do it. And then I went to Paris, and then blah, blah, blah. That's it.
So that's actually one of the questions. I think I'm echoing a little bit, but that was one of the questions, so what were the steps that led you to shoot for Vogue and Bazaar? So kind of, was he the catalyst, and then you took that to I guess Europe. So talk about how you started.
Well, I mean, in like, even if it's Vogue, I mean, people think, there's obviously American Vogue, and there's French Vogue, and there's Italian Vogue, and British Vogue, but there's all the other Vogues. And people think that it's easier to get into those ones. But they're like as hard in terms of, if you're in a market, like in Australia, it's almost impossible to get into Vogue. I mean, at the time, there was the same photographer, Bailey, what was his name? He's unfortunately passed away. Richard Bailey. He was shooting everything. He was like the Mario Testino of British Vogue, or Stephen Meisel of, you know, American Vogue and Italian Vogue. He was shooting everything, and once in a while there'd be like one other photographer. So, but when this guy Nicolas Junja came in, he said, "Listen, I want to work with her. She's and he had a special project. It was a hair story, black and white. So so then I got in, and I was lucky. I was lucky to have him, because you kind of need someone like this who has a strong voice, who kind of he was like God when he went to Australia. Everyone was like, oh, whatever he says, it's, you know, it's God's voice. So I was lucky to have him on my back, and then I started shooting for Vogue, and then I think I was quite ambitious. So when I started doing Australian Vogue and the cool magazine in Australia, right away I thought, okay, this is not enough. I want to go to Paris, and I want to try to make it there. So that's what I did, and then I went to Paris. But you definitely need someone, probably not all the time, but you need a stylist or an editor or someone who really believes in you to get in those big names magazine, for sure.
Yeah, and that seems to kind of be what I've heard kind of time and time again. I think sometimes, and I actually think your approach is probably more reasonable than trying to get at the editor, who people are always trying to reach, you know, versus say trying to get through, you know, a hairstylist or a makeup artist, or it seems like that can maybe be another approach for people to get at who make.
That's for sure, because I mean, editors are so hard to reach. I mean, like, basically these people get millions of emails and phone calls. And then I remember when I first arrived in Australia, I didn't know anybody. I was there by myself. I had absolutely no friends, no contact, nothing. So I went to buy a big pile of magazines. I sat down in my hotel room, and then I just highlighted all the names of all the people I like to work. So I literally, like I was studying the market. I bought maybe 25 different magazines. They have a lot of magazines there. But, you know, I bought all the magazines. I wanted to know everyone's name, like who is the editor, who are the stylists that works the most, who are the makeup artists that works the most. It was like doing it like a kind of a study of the people in that new market that I didn't know anything about. And then once I highlighted a few names of people, I thought, okay, well, these are the people that I need to try to contact. But then I think I was making 50 phone calls a day, leaving messages, obviously, to all these, you know, phone calls. Nobody ever returned my call, not once. So, I mean, the only way I was able to get in is by going out, meeting the people, getting friendly with the people. I was very lucky. I think the first week I met a guy who was working he was a photo agent working in an agency, and he really liked my work. So he's like, oh, I'll introduce you to this girl, this stylist, oh, this girl's the editor of this new magazine, and then, oh, this girl's a makeup artist, and then, oh, I know this other person, she's like working in this really cool modeling agency, you should meet her. And then once you make the phone call, you say, this person is referring me, has told me to call you, because then they take the call, then they call you back, then they give you some attention. It's really, it's almost impossible to actually get attention from people if you don't have some sort of connection with someone else they know and they trust.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of an important lesson that a lot of people don't take into account. They just try to reach out to that person, but there really is no reason for that person to email you back. Like, yeah. I mean, you're not going to make the money.
No.
It could be good, but they know 100 other people that their work is also good. So just having even just a little bit like, oh, my cousin's friend, mailman, you know, yeah. That is so much better than just like this random. And that's impressive that you looked up all those people, that you called like 50 people a day. and just
but also to know who I wanted to work with and who was who. Like I think it's important if you go somewhere and you're in a conversation in a new market, you need to be able to participate. And the only way you can do that if you know what they're talking about. So every time, I mean, I don't do that so much anymore, but now I'm more in the art world. But whenever I go to an art fair or like somewhere where I want to get, you know, social, I kind of try to read as much as possible the newspaper of of the market that I'm in, or the magazines or the blogs or whatever, just to really know what's the news, what's the actual things, what are the people talking about right now in the business, in that industry, so you can actually kind of get the conversation going and get involved, because if not, you have no idea what people are talking about or who are they talking about. So it's harder.
Yeah. So we're going to get into one of the other questions and move more into your fine art and your work. But before we do that, quickly talk about then just to continue that story. So you went to Europe and
well, the story is a bit sad, because it's actually not sad, but I moved to Paris, and then things were really good. One thing I learned when I think a lot of people must have said that before, but I think Dirk, which I've listened to, said the same thing. Once you come from there's like the A market, the B market, and the C market. So the A markets are obviously the big city, New York, London, Paris. And then the B market are the smaller city, like, for example, Sydney, Spain, let's say Barcelona, Madrid, or, like the Asian markets, Shanghai, where there's a kind of serious kind of scene, fashion scene or magazine scene. But they're not the A market, And then there's the C markets, which are the smaller cities, smallest city like Melbourne or Montreal or I don't know, like Toronto or, like smaller city in Europe, in Germany. These are like this, I don't know, B or C market, depending. I mean, I don't want to. So basically, that's one thing that I learned, that when you work in the smaller market, you are told, or you are trying to achieve a certain kind of work that will appeal to more people, because that's what the clients want. That's even the magazine. If they work with you all the time, maybe 1 month they want you to shoot a white background story, and the next month they want you to shoot on location, and next month they say, oh, we've got a portrait to do, and then the next month they'll say, oh, we've got a beauty story we want you to do. So I mean, people tend to kind of work with you because you're their friends, or because they like you, but not necessarily because the work they want to do is your style. So once you are in a big city market, like a market, that doesn't work that way. You need to really have a very specific style, like to the point where it's kind of a bit frustrating. It's almost like you need to shoot the same story all over again, like always the same thing with just different models, but it's almost always so similar that they want you to develop a very, very strong signature style, something that really it can't be anyone else, it's just you. So when I got to Paris, I had a very good book. I had great tear sheets from great magazine, and then people do respect what happens in I think Sydney is known. They send a lot of models there from all over the world to actually come back with great tear sheets, because they have a really good pool of very talented photographers, stylists. Like the fashion scene is really cool over there, even though it's not the international names. It's a lot of their industry artists are like, making big careers internationally, because there is a lot of talent. So when I came to Paris, coming straight from Sydney, people were definitely very attentive to my work. I had a few cool models in my book that were about to make it big, like Irina at the time, and then Monica Avon, and quite a few girls that were really cool and doing quite well in Europe at the time. And so they did take a good look at my work, and but then I really understand quite quickly that my work was not focused enough. I had to really, again, do this same exercise again, but even more precisely, like, okay, now, what is it that I really want to do? So I started working on personal stuff when I was in Paris, and then I got a few gigs for Madame Figaro, and then I met people from Numero and people from French Vogue, and things were actually pretty good. I was about to be signed by a big agency at the time, which has closed, but then I think reopened, called Katie Barker, and it was really exciting. And then something happened. I found out I was pregnant when I was on a shoot down south of France for Madame Figaro. And then I was 30 years old. I was with actually an Australian boyfriend, which we had been together for a few years, and he was also a photographer. So we thought, well, we're just going to have this baby. And then things changed. So I came back to Canada to have my baby, and then I just have to advise women, if you have a baby, maybe it's not the right timing to have a big international fashion career. So so kind of things kind of changed from that moment. Once I became a mother, I actually didn't return to Paris. I went back to Australia, tried to keep it going there. But as a mom, as a new mom, it was really hard for me to put the same energy in my work. So I kind of had to rethink my direction. So the big Paris life kind of ended there, and never went back for work. So unfortunately, that's not a it's a happy story because of a beautiful family, but it's not a happy story. Kind of to make a career statement. So yeah, so that's there's another story starting from there.
No, I think that's actually a very interesting point in terms of sometimes creatives don't really think about, you know, starting a family and things like that, and how that could affect the trajectory. And that's female or male. So I think that's always definitely something important that a lot of people should keep in mind, is if you are trying to make it to the top, that, you know, it could come with some sacrifices, and whether you want to make them or not, which I think that's important.
I think it's possible to have a family, but you have to be at the top. I mean, I think it's not while you're trying to get there that you can have a baby, because it's a life that, I mean, it's such an intense life that you don't have any time or any space in your brain for anything else. All you think about day and night is just work, ideas, you know, putting this together, you know, like meeting people, just, just working. And it's not really work because you're like passionate.
Love it, yeah.
But it's something that takes all your time and all your energy. And then once you, especially for a woman, I think once something happens in your body, like you're creating life, I mean, it's really hard to disconnect yourself from that. So suddenly you start thinking about, practical things like, where am I going to live? Because when I was living in Paris, I was just living from one place to another, going out all the time, doing all the openings, the parties. And then suddenly you're like, you feel sick, you feel tired, you just want to stay home, then you want a better home, you want to live somewhere, you want to create a home for your family. And it really changes everything. Like you just start thinking about, I want to make money. I want to create, a life for this child and his family, which is like you're less, not that you're less ambitious, but you become more conservative about your choices. You make less, you maybe make less choices that could bring you. You're less adventurous, really. I think that's what it is.
Okay. Cool. So, and I think this actually gets into one of the other questions here, which is, why did you decide to feature your personal work exclusively on your website as opposed to your commercial work? Have you found that clients hire you based solely on your personal projects, or do you find they want to see your commercial work as well, even if it's not shown on your website? So I guess, you can start to answer that question, and then we'll jump to your actual website so people can actually see what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, that old story about my life and my career, basically, when I had this child, then I had two more later on. So I have 3 kids now. So I kind of settled in Montreal. And at the time, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to have a family, so I'm going to stay here. And then it kind of forced me to go back to doing a lot of different things and doing a lot of commercial work. And then I did really well for the last 10 years, working a lot, a lot in Canada, one of the probably most working photographers. But then 3-4 years ago, I was again really annoyed that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, which is more personal work. And I decided to start a gallery, because I've always been a collector. I've been buying art photography from other people for 15 years. So I've decided I want to start a gallery. I started the gallery, which is called the Print Atelier. And then I kind of really immersed myself into the contemporary art scene, art gallery scene, and I just realized I don't know that I still want to do commercial work. So I went to New York. I got an agent, because I never really spent a lot of time in New York prior to the last few years, just because I really kind of focused on, Canada. And then when I went to New York, I realized, okay, well, I think the way to make it in a big city like this right now, because there's so much going on. It's so tough. It's harder than it's ever been. With all the e-com and all the commercial, the clients are all having less and less budget, and even the big photographers now are shooting campaigns they would have never shot before. So I just thought, well, you know what? I really just need to put my soul into what represent my work, which is the things that I really want to work on, and the work that really represent my vision of photography. So that's why I've made that decision, and maybe it's about 6 months ago. I just took everything out of my website, which was a kind of typical fashion photographer's website, with fashion, beauty, advertising, lifestyle, all the, magazines and covers and models. But then I don't know that I don't see my work that way anymore. So this website that I have right now, it's kind of an in-between, because right now, to be honest, I've been in a big kind of career crisis, because I still really love fashion, and I still love fashion photography, but I am really thinking very deeply about how I want to continue doing this into a more personal way. And I think maybe my work is going a little bit more towards portraits and art photography, meaning like picturing. I want to be able. I think being a mom and having been in this business for over 20 years and being 43 right now, I think I've started to feel like I need to have something to say more than just picturing beautiful, pretty girls and products. So for me, it's important now to actually find a way to tell something about the people I photograph, or say something about my vision of the world, or especially really about women and how is it to be a woman in this world, in this society, and then like especially with young girls, I'm really interested in how young girls are going to become the next woman of the world in our society. So I really try to focus. I like, doing personal work. So I don't do a lot of commercial work anymore. I really work on personal project, exhibition. I work on my gallery, trying to really develop that project with artists that I love, and medias, and then collectors, obviously. And yeah, so I'm in the process of changing my works. That's why my website is like this. Obviously, it wouldn't be like this if I wanted to work, because that's not a good commercial website. So I mean, there's no brand or names or magazines or whatever. It's just like a bunch of work that I've done over the years that I believe represents the best way right now that I can, because I'm right in the process of reworking my redoing my work, like my portfolio, but not really, like just I want to work one story at a time, really.
Yeah.
So this is I'd say it's to have something, but it
you
wouldn't have any website right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I mean, being I think being I'm a fashion photographer. I've been a fashion photographer, but I'm at the end of the day, I'm an artist. I think I'm an artist, and I'm someone who question a lot things and people, and especially my role in this world, meaning being a fashion photographer. I think something that I didn't really think so much about when I was younger, but now, I mean, it means a lot to me that when I photograph a young girl, 14-year-old, 15-year-old girl on a set, I mean, I really wonder why am I trying to tell this girl to look like, something she's not, So anyway, so I mean, this is a classical subject in the fashion world that we are, but maybe from a woman's point of view, it's different. I I feel more connected to that question than maybe a male photographer or someone else. I don't know, someone younger.
Cool. So let's talk more about, I guess, now shooting more art and fine art and more personal work that's, coming from that angle, because obviously very different things, fashion photography. And so I guess what I'll do first is bring up your gallery and, let's talk about that. And then, maybe talk about some of the images that you really like and stand out to you. Okay, so now I'm on your website. So this is your work on your gallery, but there are other artists on here as well. And, anybody you want to jump to and move to, we can do that as well.
I mean, my work, I think, is really, it's different projects, but a lot of it comes from a fashion background. I mean, definitely some of the stories are older stories. Like this story was something I shot when I was in Sydney, maybe 10 years ago. Or I don't know, I can't remember exactly. But it's something that every time I used to shoot fashion in a more personal way, especially when I was in Sydney, at the time all my work was very, like, it was coming from my heart, really. So this story was really about a bunch of teenagers coming back from a party at the end of the night or when the sun was coming up, and they were just stopping by for a swim after having a big party night. And this is what I was trying to picture. And at the end of the day, now what I'm really interested in doing is to picture kids or adolescents or teenagers going through a new steps, like changing. Literally, their life is changing. So I've always been interested without knowing it. So that's why this work is on the gallery, because it's fashion, but it's very it depicts the same story that I'm interested still now to work on. So I mean, there's some work that is older, but some of the work is more recent. So some of the work is like really something that I'm really interested in is hotel rooms. I love hotel rooms. I've spent a lot of my life in hotel rooms, traveling so much with for work and as a fashion photographer. And so I'm really interested in.
It's this Hilton shot right here.
Yeah. So exactly. So this is like, I'm really interested. I've always been my whole body of work ever since I was a photographer in the fashion world was really involves a lot of eroticism. I love to explore human sexuality, eroticism, whether it's with children, because I believe children have this, inner sexuality. Same with teenagers and then adults, and all sorts of way of exploring intimacy. Hotel rooms have always been very inspiring for me. I like the fact that just every night some new people, new stories come up, and it just whenever I enter an hotel room, I'm like, so much has happened here, like not only sexually, but just like love stories, and then all sorts of encounters. Like it's really something that I'm interested in. So like that's why my work now is not only involving people, but it's involving just like situation and stories that involves that sort of this that involves the stories of eroticism, sexuality, change, like rite of passage, like things like that. This is again an older story that comes from my fashion days that I shot in New Zealand. And it was just like, this girl was such a persona, like it was like a character. It's almost like I feel like it's almost a film, like stills from a film. There's a story, and I love the story and the mystery behind that character kind of girl. And then like it's always around the body, the intimacy. So everything I do tends to be, shot in that sort of perspective. And I love to work like in a very kind of spontaneous way, very intuitive. I mean, I do set up most of my shoots, but I love to work with just a lot of spontaneity, natural light, very very simple in a way. Like I try to really kind of take moments from life and just, obviously, for example, the Girls Polaroid series. That's something I shot when I was in Sydney a few years ago. And I just took girls from the street that I met on the street. I saw kind of young, cute girls on the street. And I said, oh, listen, I'm a photographer. I'm working on this personal project. I'm shooting Polaroids in my house. Can you come? And then, it will be a little bit, not fully naked, but, like some sort of lingerie or just like half naked. And then, I was really kind of really fascinated that these girls came up and just kind of, it was just the girl and me. And I do that a lot. I kind of pull a few kind of clothes, things that I pick up from shops or like vintage shops. And then I just, dress up the girl and do that. I like to work. A lot of my favorite stories are done without any team because I find they interfere in my work. You need the best kind of team and perfect kind of fit to actually do what you really want to do without being kind of negotiating with a makeup artist or a stylist who really wants to show that piece of clothes or show that special new kind of makeup trick she wants to do. And so, a lot of the work that I do is just very personal and intrusive. That series is about winter. Like, I live in a country where there's 6 months of winters, which I find really difficult. So I'm really, a lot of my work involves that sort of scenery because I find like it's a kind of character in my life. Winter is part of my life and I'm not really loving that character, but I have to live with it. So I kind of try to, use it as much as I can in either light or because it's beautiful light at the same time. Winter light is very kind of often very soft and very cold, and I kind of like that lighting as well.
Yeah. So we're going to kill this and bring it back up. So yeah, I guess I wanted to talk about somebody's question, which was, what suggestion would you have for somebody who wants to improve their visual storytelling or story visually?
Oh, well, I think maybe make a storyboard. I find that for me, when I was at the beginning of my career, I used to do that all the time. The story was so clear in my head. When I was thinking about something, I didn't think about an image. I thought about a story. So, if the inspiration comes to you as a story, you need to write it down. This girl and this guy are going there. They're doing this. They're happy. They're angry. They're sad. They've just had a bad news. Like you put everything down. Like if you were writing a storyboard for a film, and then you can even make some little. Like I used to kind of divide the story within, let's say, 8 images or 10 images, and then make little drawings like storyboards with like putting the characters in places where I wanted them to be and what they would wear, like literally plan it, and then you're going to tell a story. I find it's not just taking pictures of one girl in one setup or having one theme. It's not telling a story. It's a theme story, but it's not necessarily telling a story. I think it's something that is really hard to tell a story with photography. And then also what's interesting about storytelling in photography is that often the photographs work together, but they don't. They're not as strong individually. So that's something that it is important. Like if you're going to work on a story, you want it to be shown or seen as a story. So, like you have to make sure there's going to be a place for you to, display it as a story, not just as a single image, because it doesn't make as much sense. The strength of storytelling is having many images, not just one, ideally.
Yeah, and I think there's some good points there. So I guess you mentioned before when you made your trip to Australia, you said that at one point you were watching like 3 films a day. Yeah. How has film, just watching movies, improved your storytelling? And just talk about that.
It's a full on inspiration for me. Cinema is, a lot of DOP or directors have been incredibly inspiring for me. I mean, all the time, all the time. Sometimes I watch a movie, I just literally want to steal the shot from the film and just have it as a photograph. So I think it's something to definitely let yourself be inspired by. But then after that, it's very personal. I mean, what kind of film? What kind of? For me, it's a lot of European film. I really like the Romer from the 70s. Very, I always go back to very, kind of natural light, soft light, warm, like backlit or very warm lights, and then also quite sensual styling. I like the French aesthetic for sure, very much, especially from the 70s, and also the landscape's very important for me. Like a lot of movies, the locations, the apartments, the houses, the beaches, all that's could be very inspiring. Like you're watching a film and suddenly you're like, oh wow, I want to do a shoot like in a place like this. You're inspired by. I mean, I think it's definitely the main inspiration for me, more than looking at other people's work in magazine. I've never been a big fan of bringing a magazine to a shoot and saying, oh, I want to do this. I don't like the idea of copy. I like to be inspired by something else, by a movie or a documentary, or by someone's life, or some political character, or like a whatever, like a video clip, or just like motion is very inspired, or just life, like going to a new city and just walking on the street, seeing people, and suddenly you can be totally inspired by shooting a similar thing.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll try to answer one or two more of these questions, because obviously we don't want to take up too much of your time. You got kids, you got shooting, we understand. But this is more of a technical question. This is from Michael. And he asked the question, did you shoot Kodachrome like Steve Curry, or what was the reason to shoot E6 instead of C41 film? And this is
I used to shoot Kodachrome, yes, but I didn't like it at all. I was never a big fan of E6, but some clients at the time, that just the way it was. It was those kind of more commercial clients. They had a way to work, and then you had to kind of step in and keep going the way. It was also a matter of time and cost, because when you were shooting E6, you would get your film within a few hours, and then the clients could go straight to production, scanning and printing. Where with negative, which is what I mostly shot in my life when I was shooting a film, you had to go through a contact sheets, then make selection of your contact sheets, and then make some prints, and then scan the prints. So the costs were higher, and then the time frame was longer.
Got you. So hope that answers your question there, Michael. And I guess, well, you kind of already answered Garen's question. So I guess this will probably just be, another one of the questions there, which is, I guess, knowing that even though you are transitioning, you have been in the market today. So what would you say are the 2 to 3 things that you think somebody should try to market themselves, whether it be to clients, magazines, or et cetera, in this market today?
Well, I think that in this market, you need to definitely have outstanding work. You need to have some work that is extremely original and something special for sure. I mean, it really, again, depends what kind of career you want. If you want a commercial career and you want to shoot e-com, that's not a problem. There's a lot of work for that. And then you can get into Amazon and shoot. Even that is not so easy anymore, I think. But, there's a lot of e-com jobs out there for people who are technical and just like to shoot and like to have fun and are not going crazy about creating the best images. But if you do want to have a big career and have, I think, like a type A kind of career, I think, you first of all need to have, outstanding work, very original, very, very strong, very personal. When I say personal, I mean special that no one else does. I don't need personal like I do. And also you need to have amazing, amazing network and connection. And for that, you need to hang out. You can't be in a smaller city. I mean, for me, I try to go to New York being a, you know, a mom and back to Montreal, I go sometimes every month, but it's not possible. You need to be there. You need to be at, you know, especially when you're starting, you need to be at every party you can. You need to connect to anyone. You need to do a lot of tests and then creatives, and then, you know, you need to invest all your time and money, extra money on photography. And obviously Instagram is a big thing. You know, like being involved in the community and being very, very, very present and shooting all the time. The more you shoot, the more people you meet, the more makeup artists you meet, the more stylists you meet, the more models you meet, the more chances you have to become part of the next big thing. And then, you know, you have to just be creative. Like if you don't have the money or the time, if it's too hard to find a stylist, you need to go and get the clothes yourself or do something very simple. Or, you know, and then the most important thing is to have a really strong body of work that is very that is very aligned with itself. You know, that's something that when an agent or a magazine or someone who wants to hire you look at, they really understand really right away what you're doing and what you're all about and what's your strength. So I think it's important to understand what you really want to do. And then before you go out and show your work, like explore, you know, do beauty, do lifestyle, do fashion, do all sorts of fashion, studio, location, natural lighting. And then once you really feel what's your, or, you know, look at a lot of other people's photography and then like put together a Pinterest board and understand what you really love. And once you really narrow it down to, okay, this is really what I love and this is what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do. So I'd say you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy. This is not a market anymore that you can just be spontaneous about unless you're a genius. But if not, you need extremely good connection and extremely strong work. That's my advice.
Cool. Yeah, no, thanks so much. This has been awesome to just, you have kind of an interesting background, you know, that you don't hear about. Usually people are kind of, you know, they're kind of doing this and then they go like this. You just went like this. And then now you're like, okay.
I'm not like this because I haven't said I feel like my second career is coming, which hopefully is going to be in a big gallery in New York and publishing beautiful books and having big art exhibitions, maybe in a museum one day. So that's my next step. But I have to take a step down to think well about what I want to do, because again, you don't want to go see a big gallery and not have your work together and not being really prepared for what you want to do.
Yeah, and it's a whole different world, and I think we'll definitely have to get you back on a little bit to see where you are in that process and learn from that experience. I think the fine art world for photography is, I think it could be a very interesting market for a lot of photographers, and obviously it's not like a money thing there. It's like there's a lot of money, just will somebody spend it on you or not? Because I mean, people buying $100 million painting, right? It's just like there's money there. It's just whether they will buy it from you is a whole nother. So I think it's an interesting market, and I definitely would love to hear.
You don't go in the art market to make money, that's for sure. Fashion was very much better for money.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt about that, for sure.
Yeah. So awesome. Thank you again so much. We'll definitely be in touch. That gallery, it was called the Print Atelier.
Yeah, follow me. I've got an Instagram account under my name, Maude Arsenault, all together, and then the Print Atelier, and then obviously Facebook both as well. And
so that's that.
All both. I've got two identity, you know, the Print Atelier and Maude Arsenault.
Cool, and I'll make sure to see if I can put down the. Oh yeah, I guess if you want to type your Instagram or any of that in the side, feel free to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
And then people can, you know, follow you and check out what you're doing and be in touch. And
Sure. I'll do that.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, there's someone writing.
Yeah. Oh, this is from Tammy. Yeah. So thanks, Tammy, for.
If someone wants to be a mother of 3 and have a big fashion career, I'll say good luck.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's impossible, but you know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So okay, so just want to say thanks again, everybody. We'll make sure to put the links in there, and then feel free to watch the recap Stay tuned for the next one. So Mo, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I love this story. This is definitely one of my favorite, actually. It's been very cool. So thank you so much. And everybody tune into, I think we have something coming up next week or the week after with Instagram. So take a look at that. So thank you so much, Mo, again.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye.